Hello, and welcome to the everyPCOSbody podcast. I'm Shelby.
I'm Jen. Hello.
Hello, everybody. And in this mini episode today, we are going to be talking about Jen's story, which is a good story, and I can't wait to delve more into it. So, Jen, how do you feel about sharing your story?
I'm going to tell it this time. I know we tried with our mini episode a couple episodes ago, but this time I'm actually going to tell it.
Well, and it's not easy. So I want to keep it as simple and easy to understand for everyone. So let's talk about when you were diagnosed with PCOS, like when you were officially diagnosed. When was that?
So my story with PCOS is a little different than most. So most people, as we know, take multiple doctors, multiple years to get diagnosed. I was actually diagnosed really quickly and kind of unsuspectingly. I ended up passing out at work one day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was taken to the ER by ambulance, and it turned out to be a really severe UTI. And while I was there, one of the ER doctors kind of pulled me aside, and she was like, she asked me a couple questions, and I answered them, and she was like, I am 99% positive you have this thing called PCOS. So I wasn't seeking any type of treatment for it. It was just a random ER doctor that said, listen, I think you have this. I think you need to go see someone about it. And that was it. At the time, I was not in a position. I didn't have health insurance. I was 19. This was 1996 or 7. No, I was 17. I was 17 years old. Yeah.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah, I was 17 years old. I was living on my own. I had just gotten from being homeless to having my first apartment. I was working as a waitress. I was in a really bad relationship. I was not trying to get pregnant at all.
Had you ever heard of PCOS before, prior to that?
No, not at all. This was the first time I had ever heard of it. A couple of the things that the ER doctor told me about it, I was like, well, fuck it. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. On with my day. And kind of just, tucked it into the back of my head. I did go and see an OBGYN shortly after that, just for general reasons, wasn't getting my period, things like that, and brought it up because the ER doctor said I really should, and because the UTI, I had to follow up for that and medication for that, and the doctor ran the hormone panel, and confirmed it. She was like, yeah, you have it.
Not to pause, but like,
no,
what in your hormonal panel showed that to her that you had PCOS?
Couldn't tell you.
You don't remember?
No, not. I'm 40 now, Shelby. That was when I was 17, and I was, I didn't care. I didn't care.
But they confirmed that you had PCOS.
They confirmed it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I do remember that. I do remember them confirming that I had this thing called PCOS, or at the time they called it PCOD. They called it D, PCOD. And I just remember it being a thing that I had, and there was no information. Google was not a thing. Google was not invented yet. Home computers weren't a thing. Home computers were $4,000-$5,000 at the time. This was like AOL.
Dial-up Prodigy.
Yeah.
You remember Prodigy?
Yeah. And this was like if there was a search engine, it was like this stuff. So, which, Google just wasn't a thing. There was no information. If you think there's not a lot of information about PCOS now, or accurate information about it now, think about, 25 years ago. back to 1997, there was nothing. And the
Were-
doctors, oh, go ahead.
Were they still calling it Stein-Leventhal back then?
No, I remember them specifically calling it PCOD.
Okay.
So polycystic ovary disease is what they were calling it. So they weren't even calling it a syndrome; they were calling it a disease. Although I do remember hearing it Stein-Leventhal. At one point, one doctor randomly sometime called it Stein-Leventhal. So that wasn't a new term to me at all either. Once I had heard that when I started actually researching it. So when people hear that, there's an actual other name for it, they're like, oh my God, what? Really? Yeah, I had heard that term before because I was diagnosed so long ago. So yeah, my story is a little bit different than others because I wasn't seeking treatment for it. It was so random, and it was just like, you have these symptoms that line up with this thing. Pretty sure you have it. You should talk to someone about it and have it ultimately confirmed. And I did. And every doctor since then, no one ever told me anything about it. They were just like, yep, you have it. The most that anyone had told me about it was a couple things. And they were like, you're going to be fat. And like flat out, like very blunt about it. You're going to be fat. You're probably going to have a hard time having kids, but it won't be impossible. You're just going to have some difficulties, and you're going to have hair on your face. Like, that is all that was ever explained to me. I know that they would constantly test me for diabetes, but they would tell me that was because of my weight. They would never tell me it was because of the PCOS and the insulin resistance that goes along with it or anything like that. It was never explained to me about what was going on. So from the time that I was 17 until the time that I was 35, I never even going through infertility treatment. And I went through every infertility option available, including IVF, like up to and including IVF, every single option that is available to a person in the United States of America. I tried. I was given and tried, and everything was there, including the ovarian drilling, which I am adamantly against, by the way.
Me too. Not good for you. We'll
yeah,
talk about that
no.
another
Yeah,
episode.
we'll have an episode about that. But I've had everything. And even throughout all that, PCOS was still never explained to me.
So to interrupt and ask, what did they tell you to do with it? Like, so they
Nothing.
gave you this diagnosis, and like, that's what I'm trying to get at is a lot of people are given this diagnosis and they're left to sit with it. And they're like, well, what do I do? So you weren't given any direction or instructions or anything really, right?
Nope. Nothing. I wasn't even told to consult Dr. Google. And I think part
that was way back before Dr. Google. That was dial-up AOL days.
I think part of it is because I think it's kind of a double-edged sword for my story. I think part of it because I was diagnosed at such a young age and so far long ago that my medical records show that I was diagnosed in 1997. So once I saw a new doctor and they confirmed the diagnosis, because every new doctor is going to run the test and confirm it, especially when you're going through infertility stuff. They always double confirm it. But they see that, I say I have PCOS, they run the test, they confirm it. And then they just move on with what I'm there for. So they're like, okay, well, you have this. What else is, you have it. Let's move on.
What are your goals?
Right. What do you mean?
Like, I mean, so like for me, like when they were like, okay, you have it. Like, what do you want? Do you want babies? This is what you're going to do. Oh, what do you want to control symptoms? Here's birth control. So what did they offer you?
Well, yeah, every time I was seeing a doctor, it was for a reason.
Right.
You know, I was never seeing, for me, I was never, when I was seeing an OBGYN, or I was either in the ER for excessive bleeding, and their response was side effect of PCOS, nothing we can do for you. Or I was going to the OBGYN not regularly, it was for excessive bleeding or not bleeding at all. And I was like, oh, you know, I haven't had a period for a year. I think there's something, you know, should do something about that.
Yeah.
And usually it was, they were very nonchalant about it. Well, yeah, PCOS, so it's not that big of a deal. Here, take some Provera, have a period, you'll be fine. And then it was on to, once I met Brian, and I've been with him for 19 years. So for the last 19 years, it's been trying to have a baby. It's been infertility treatment. So anytime I have been with a doctor, whether it's the OBGYN or it's the RE, the reason for that is
baby
infertility. It's trying to have a baby, or up until the last 5 years, it has been dealing with cancer.
Yeah. So I mean,
that.
your story is a little bit different than everyone, because you have the aspect of having dealt with cancer and having dealt with some of the symptoms and the issues that can come from non-controlled PCOS, or PCOS that's not, you know, well-maintained. And not that that's saying everyone that doesn't have well-maintained PCOS, you know, is going to get cancer, but you have lived some of the most drastic, you know, correlations between PCOS and endometrial cancer and things like that. So how do you feel how that plays with your story with PCOS, having dealt with that?
Well, so I think that there's a build up to that. When I was around 35, I think it was 35. I don't know. I lose track of time. Because brain
Once
fog.
you get past 30, it's all just like, eh.
Right. The brain fog is real. It is real.
For real.
I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, at the same time, I had a friend who had a doctor suspect that she had PCOS. And I was never silent about having PCOS. I just never knew anything about it. I was like, yeah, I have this thing, and that's why I can't have kids. You know, because I constantly would get the, why don't you have kids? And I'm like, I have this thing. I don't know. That's why. Leave me alone. So she instant messaged me, and she was just like, you have PCOS, right? And I was like, well, yeah, but I don't know much about it. And she was like, well, my doctors think that I have it, you know, so I was looking for more information. And me being who I am, I was like, fuck it, let's research it together. We'll find out together what it's about. And as I started researching it, I was absolutely floored, first of all, about how similar the symptoms were with type 2 diabetes and PCOS. And then all of a sudden I realized the correlation and how type 2 is caused by PCOS. And then I started really delving into what PCOS is and the conditions it causes and is related to. And these light bulbs started going off like, holy shit, I'm not crazy. All these things I've been experiencing my whole life, I'm not some crazy, lazy fat bitch.
But so many people feel like that. So many like with PCOS, like so many people live that feel like it's their fault, and not saying, like, I mean, it's a big issue with our medical professionals and the whole stigma around it. And the whole reason why a lot of the reason why we're doing this podcast is people feel like PCOS is their fault. You know, like they feel like, oh, if I just lost weight, I wouldn't have it, which is not true. Or if I just could have a baby, I wouldn't have it, which is not true. You know, like there's so many
or a
stigmas attached to it.
hysterectomy and
Yeah,
it'll
like,
go away,
oh,
which
if
is
if I just get my
bugs me.
hysterectomy, or if I
Yep.
just get through menopause, like there's so many things that are incorrectly out there and limited information about it, that we need to make it clear to everyone that, every story is different, and it's not all your fault. There are things that you can do to manage and change your lifestyle, but it's not your fault that you have PCOS. It's what you do with it,
Exactly. I was astonished when I started reading about the correlation of the symptoms and side effects that I personally have and how they are a direct relation to PCOS. Like, it floored me. And I was like, holy shit, this is from PCOS. That's from PCOS? Oh my God, that's from PCOS too? How can all of these things spider web from PCOS? Like, it's PCOS is in the center and it just spider webs out, and they're
so
all
here's
connected.
my question. Here's my question for you, and a lot of people ask me this all the time, and a lot of things that we're going to talk about is, everyone's so focused on PCOS being a lifestyle condition, which there are things that you can do to manage it through lifestyle, but how do you feel your life would have been different with PCOS if you were given the correct knowledge about what it means to live with PCOS? Meaning, if you knew you could do certain things to control it versus just being like, okay, you got it, good luck. Like, how would your life be different?
I think, well, for one, I think that I wouldn't have had the cancer, honestly. I think that, I shouldn't say that. I think that my chances for the cancer would have been much more greatly reduced, because I had the symptoms of uncontrollable bleeding for months at a time. Like, my longest period that I can remember was over 9 months straight, every day,
which
bleeding.
Is not normal, everyone.
No, and there's people that say, oh, well, you have PCOS, so that's just a normal PCOS thing. It's not. That is not normal. Even if you have PCOS, it is not normal, and that's something that needs to be looked at. And if a doctor tells you that, well, you have PCOS, so that's why, nope, get a new doctor. Get a new doctor. And then there was times where I would go, there was over 2 years that I wouldn't have a period, and I knew that was wrong. And, in my 20s, before I met Brian, and in my 20s where I was just like, fuck yeah. Who wants to deal with that shit? And then, but looking back on it, and then especially since being with my husband and trying to have a baby and not having a period and knowing all that's involved in trying to have a baby and the dangers of it. Well, I didn't know the dangers of it. I just knew, I was thinking of the reproductive side of it. I didn't think of the dangers of it, So had I known what I know now, I think that, I would have at least been able to reduce my chances greatly, which is why which is why I'm such an advocate on the cancer side of it. When we run quite a few support groups for PCOS, and anytime I see someone post anything about not having a period for an extended amount of time, I immediately jump on that.
You have to say something.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, cancer survivor here, 2-time cancer survivor here. I'm still trying to save my uterus. You got to get it checked out. That you have to. That's not safe. I'm not trying to say that you're going to get cancer or you have cancer, but
your risks are just increased. And I think this is a good point to put a public service announcement out there. And we'll talk about this because September is Endometrial Cancer Awareness Month, also on top of PCOS Awareness Month. But if you are not having regular periods and you're going longer than 2 to 3 months without a regular cycle, that is not normal. That is not healthy. and it is leading to an increased risk of certain endometrial, cervical cancers like that, and you should be talking to your doctor about that. So that is a PSA, and we'll dive into that more in our episode about endometrial cancer and risks associated with PCOS. But if you are not having a cycle or any regularity within 2 to 3 months, and you're going prolonged amount of times without a period, that is something very serious that you do need to talk to your doctor about.
And there's not a reason for it. So you're not on an IUD, or
Right.
you're not on a midi pill where you're allowed to skip the period weeks. It is technically, it's safe to have 4 periods a year, according to the latest research. Me being an endometrial cancer survivor twice, I would say you should have more than that, but I'm not a doctor.
Of course, of course.
But
yeah, any PSA, like, we are not medical professionals. We do
yes.
talk to a lot of women or people living with these conditions. And what the consensus is if you are going longer than 90 days without a cycle, and it's not caused by a missed cycle, is not caused by, you know, like we said, a birth control method or a medical reason, you need to be discussing that with your doctor.
Yes.
Not to overwhelm you, not to scare you, but prolonged times without a cycle could be an indicator of a higher risk of endometrial cervical cancer. So that's definitely something that you want to talk to your doctor about.
Thank you. Yes. And again, like Shelby said, September is not only PCOS Awareness Month, it's also Uterine Endometrial Cancer Awareness Month, and we will have a full episode regarding that with an amazing guest. Yeah, we're going to have a guest speaker for that episode, which I'm so excited about. Andrea, who runs an amazing support group that has been, my heart she has helped me personally so much through my journey dealing with cancer, and so many other women.
I can't wait to meet her and talk to her.
She's the sweetest thing. Her journey has been amazing. I can't wait for you to hear the journey that she's been through with her cancer and why she started her groups. Her Instagram is Womb Tang Clan. How can you not freaking love her?
I love that.
I know.
So we're going to be talking to her in the next couple episodes.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you, Jen, to wrap up your mini episode is, what do you want people to know about your PCOS story? Like, what do you want people to take away from what you've lived through with PCOS so far?
So we only skim the surface of my PCOS story. There's a lot more that I want to share, and I will share through our podcast. But I think, there's a couple things about our motto with everyPCOSbody. We have 2 mottos that we live by with everyPCOSbody, and that's one is PCOS sucks, but you don't have to. We don't have to. And I think that, living with it for as long as we have, and dealing with all the ups and downs, it's really easy to get sucked into the suck of it.
The suckhole of it. Yes. Don't be a suckhole.
Don't be a suckhole.
Don't be a suckhole.
Be a fountain, not a drain. You came up with that so many years ago. I love that. I loved it when you came up with that. That was a good one from you too. You come up with such good mottos.
We're very motivational when we want to be.
We are. We're the best. We're the best.
We're the best.
But to really focus on trying to be positive, it's not easy to always be positive. I know a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, "You're so positive, you're the best." And I'm like,
no,
you don't know me every day. You know me when I talk to you and I'm motivational to you. And then I get off the phone with you and I am like, "Shelby, holy fuck." But just it's a journey, and as you age and as you go through a journey, there's changes that happen, you know. Every step you take is a change in your journey. You change as you take that step. And so you got to kind of roll with the punches. And then, you know, the other thing is just that it's, I really want to spread the knowledge that's out there, and that we are all the PCOS with none of the BS. We don't want to bullshit anybody with the information.
Absolutely.
Like we're not medical professionals by any means. We're not claiming to be. Everything that we're saying in our podcast, unless we have a medical professional on our podcast, which we will be having, but between Shelby and I, we're giving our opinions, and we're not going to bullshit about it, right?
Yeah,
we're not bullshitting about it. We've both, you know, between the two of us, we have almost 40 years of experience dealing with PCOS.
That makes us sound so old as balls. We're the PCOS dinosaurs.
Well, yeah. I mean,
no, we have a lot to offer for sure.
We do. And, you know, I mean, we know a lot about the ins and outs of not only the community, but the syndrome itself. And we have some really big news coming on our first episode that kind of goes along with that.
So let's wrap this up and talk about what's coming in September, because this episode will probably come out like right before September 1st.
Do you want to announce it now, or do you want to wait until the first episode?
It's up to you.
We can announce it now.
Do it.
Okay.
We're doing it. Go.
Okay. So, I'm so excited. Okay, so for you guys who are watching on YouTube, you can see how excited we are. So go to YouTube and watch it too.
Do it.
Okay, I'm building this.
Tell us.
Okay. So Shelby and I have been working on this for probably
months. Jen's been working on it for months.
Probably over 8 months, if not longer. We have been working on a website.
An app.
I was building to that. We are actually we're building a mobile app that will be available for Android and Apple.
iPhones. Yep.
And I believe Windows as well. It is going to have so much. Here, let me pull up my phone because I have a sample of it. It is going to have so much. Everything.
So what it basically is, Jen worked her ass off, and I'm going to blow some smoke up her ass right now because she worked her ass off. She wanted to create a resource that is all the PCOS information that people look for when they go online and search for it, without all the fluff, without all the I'm trying to sell you something, without the bias, like completely unbiased, fact-based, true information. So all of the resources, all of the information, we have collected information from the top experts. It is the source to get unbiased, reliable, truthful, factual, scientific-based information on PCOS. So not only are you going to find information on all the symptoms and things that go with it, but resources, the latest research. You're going to be able to connect with other people with PCOS. It's going to be a wonderful resource because we know how overwhelming PCOS is. It is a lot of BS, and we want to take that BS away. So that is what Jen has built, and I'm so proud of her.
We're taking away Dr. Google and giving everyone a resource to find accurate information about PCOS. That's the goal of this. We also want it to be a unitary
All inclusive.
Thank you, all inclusive. We want to take away the sister part of PCOS because we want all people
living with PCOS,
PCOS to feel comfortable being in our groups, because we're starting support groups, and to be able to find information that pertains to any patient with PCOS. So one thing that I do want to show you, hopefully it'll show up, that I'm super, super proud of is all the symptoms that are associated with PCOS. And they're not all in there. I'm still working on it. When it's launched, they won't all be in there. They'll be coming soon as we get all the information in there. So because there's a lot, there's over 85 so far, and I know there's more I need to add still. So hopefully, I don't know if this is going to show up. Is it showing up? There we go.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You can see it. Show that one. Back to start. Okay. So you can see there's just all these symptoms, and then when you click on one, of course I picked on one that doesn't have, so you pick on one, you click on it, and it gives you a definition and how it pertains to PCOS. So that is just the symptoms, one of the things that we have inside the app. We also have all kinds of other things that's in the app, like links to all of our social media, links to the podcast. We have a PCOS pop quiz section in there. Test your knowledge. That's right.
And also, we're going to be adding all the links when we, because we are going to interview all the PCOS experts in nutrition and medicine and, fitness. We're going to bring all those experts on. So anytime we interview them and we talk about with them, we're going to link their pages, because our main thing is to connect you with the resources that are trusted, reliable. We know how overwhelming it can be. We want you to get the resources that are reliable, and there are good, reliable, truthful resources out there. Like we say, all the PCOS without the BS. That's what we want to get to. So we're going to get you the most reliable, most knowledgeable, most well-founded information that we can find you, because it's a lot to navigate when you're diagnosed, or even when you've been diagnosed. We want to get you the information that you need without the BS, for sure.
Absolutely.
But we love y'all, and we're so excited for everything that's coming in September. Our first full episode is coming first of September, hopefully.
Yes.
And we're gonna get you weekly, if not bi-weekly episodes. We want to hear from you. If you have show ideas, please email us at everyPCOSbody@gmail.com. or message us on Facebook or Instagram. We are everyPCOSbody, and we love y'all, and we will see you soon.
Like and subscribe. See us on all of the podcast platforms, and then check us out on YouTube. Like, subscribe on YouTube. All the links will be down below, because we are going to be recording our podcast too, so you can see how silly and crazy we are. And we love you.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.